Rich Dad, Poor Dad. 6 Lessons to Awaken Your Thinking. This video will bring you 6 core lessons on self-development and the art of managing your life. Now, let us break down the profound messages from the book and quote, Rich Dad, Poor Dad and quote, to contemplate, understand, and apply them to your journey of creating inner peace. Lesson number 1. Overcoming emotional barriers to thinking. Let us travel back in time to the sunny Hawaiian Islands in the 1950s. There lived a 9-year-old boy named Robert. Unlike other children his age, Robert grew up under the care of 2 fathers with 2 completely different ideologies. This work not only ignites inspiration in millions, but also opens up a beautiful journey toward true self-reliance. Subtitle: Dear friend, have you ever longed to awaken the immense potential hidden deep within yourself to create a life that is not only fulfilling, but also filled with freedom and peace? Robert Kiyosaki and S. book, and quote, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and quote, is a brilliant beacon, offering a completely new perspective on how we think and build sustainable prosperity. The highly educated father sighed softly. Mr. Chanton admitted that throughout his life, the limitations of his circumstances compelled young Robert to rush home. He stood before his biological father and asked a question that was both innocent and deeply poignant. End quote. Father, can you show me how to become prosperous? End quote. The two sides were completely opposite. His biological father, known as the end quote, poor father, end quote, was a highly educated man with a doctorate and a diligent education official. He always advised his son to study hard, get high grades, and find a stable job with many benefits. His second father, actually the father of his close friend Mai, was known as the end quote, rich father, end quote. He never finished 8th grade but possessed a keen mind for organizing resources and later became one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. It all began one afternoon. On Friday, Robert and Mike stood silently watching their classmates eagerly board their luxury cars. The kids had planned a weekend getaway to a beautiful seaside resort, but Robert and Mike weren't invited, simply because they were considered underprivileged children in a school for the elite. A feeling of resentment mixed with a longing to escape. He felt underpaid, undervalued, and a deep-seated resentment welled up inside him. He decided to go see his wealthy father to protest, either increase his pay or he would quit the job. That pivotal statement paved the way for the two boys. Driven by the curiosity and intense yearning of childhood, Robert went to ask his wealthy father to teach him how to create surplus value. The father agreed, but with a practical condition. He wouldn't make him sit through dry, moralistic lectures in a classroom. I only knew how to work hard for a system, not how to build a fortune. But with love, he opened a path for his son. He said, and quote, if you really want to learn that, Don and ask me. Go see Mike and S father. He and S the one building the real foundation, end quote. Instead, he assigned Robert the job of cleaning one of his grocery stores every Saturday morning. The pay was meager, 10 cents an hour. For hard work, Roberts dutifully worked, sweeping away the dust from the cans in the sweltering summer heat. But after only 3 exhausting weeks, the boy and S patience ran out. Seeing the boy and S distress, the rich father simply smiled calmly. Immediately, a brilliant idea flashed through his mind. Robert retrieved the old comic books, borrowed an empty room in my and S basement, and opened a comic book library for the neighborhood children. Each child would only need to pay 10 cents to enter and have access to. Despite his inner turmoil, young Robert decided to follow the advice. And it was at that very moment, as he stopped working and waiting for the meager 10 cents at the end of the day, that his mind suddenly became calm and open, no longer haunted by the short-term wage. Robert began to observe his surroundings. He said that Robert was reacting just like most adults out there. When dissatisfied with their income, they let negative emotions take control. They blamed the manager, blamed the job, and then go looking for another place, hoping that better pay will solve all their troubles. At this point, the rich dad presented a new challenge, one that seemed utterly absurd. He asked Robert to continue working at the store, but this time completely voluntarily, without receiving a single penny. He noticed that the store manager regularly threw away unsold comic books whenever the distributor brought in new ones. From that vivid childhood story, we can glean a profound philosophy. Looking back at Robert and Apo's entire psychological journey, we can recognize a subtle transformation. When Robert worked for 10 cents, he was caught in a classic emotional loop that millions of adults suffer from: anxiety and material desires. The anxiety of not having enough resources to pay for life drives people to wake up every morning to work a job they don and Apo's enjoy. And when they receive meager wages, the desire for material comforts compels them to continue spending, only to return to the initial anxiety. It and Apo's an endless loop, an emotional habit that completely obscures intellect. Only when the rich father completely severed the emotional connection to the 10 cents wage did Robert and Apo's mind begin to change. He could read as many comic books as he liked in 2 hours. The library was incredibly efficient. Even when Robert wasn't at Apo's there, the comic books were quietly generating income for him. The 9-year-old boy created his first self-operating system. He was finally freed to see the opportunities right in front of him that he had previously completely ignored. The conclusion drawn from the current reality is that much of life and Apo's struggle doesn't and Apo's stem from a lack of expertise, but rather from letting emotions control important decisions. Anxiety and fleeting material desires often prevent us from seeing the bigger picture. Don and Apo's work like a machine just for the sake of a false sense of security at the end of the month. Learn to step back, keep your mind calm in the face of temptations and fears. Use your intellect to observe, to identify the problems others are facing, and find ways to solve them. When you start thinking about creating systems that deliver value, instead of just trading your time for a reward, that and Apo's when you truly lay the first bricks on the path to true freedom. Lesson number 2: the difference between assets and liabilities. Let and Apo's move on to a different picture, a story from everyday life that you may have heard, witnessed, or even experienced yourself. It and Apo's the picture of the idyllic dream of the middle class. Imagine a young, newly married couple. They are both well-educated, hardworking, and enthusiastic. Driven by a desire for the future, they initially rented a small, cozy apartment, living simply, frugally, and happily. Over time, their income increased thanks to their tireless efforts at work and promotions. At this point, advice from older generations and society began to resonate. Renting was a waste of resources. Own a home, they believed, would be their greatest asset and a solid foundation for their family. Under the invisible pressure of societal norms and the longing for a true home of their own, they decided to use all their accumulated resources to make a down payment and sign a long-term financial commitment contract lasting 20, even 30 years. On the day they moved into their beautiful new home in the suburbs with its lush green lawn, they were filled with pride. They looked at the certificate with joy, calling the house their greatest achievement and asset, just as their loan advisor had told them. However, the subsequent events quietly deviated from the rosy picture they had imagined. The new, spacious house wasn't Apo's just sitting there. It demanded expensive new furniture to match its size, a larger car to fit in the new space, and a host of other expenses. Maintenance fees, service fees, and recurring insurance premiums piled up every month. To cover this ever-increasing standard of living, the couple had no choice but to work even harder, sacrifice more time, crave the next income boost, and dedicate their entire minds to the organization. Their income did increase, but ironically, the expenses of maintaining that lifestyle also ballooned proportionally. They had inadvertently entered an endless loop A relentless cycle. The author, Robert and Apo's highly educated biological father, like many others, firmly believed that a house was a profitable investment, and that credit institutions would record it as an asset on their accounting records. However, this wealth-conscious father offered a completely different definition, not based on complex academic terminology, but on the practical flow of finances. Although it offers immense spiritual value in terms of security from the perspective of freedom, it is a huge liability. It binds them to their current job and deprives them of the right to choose to stop working. The core philosophy we can carry with us and apply immediately to our lives is that the boundary between struggle and prosperity lies in the ability to correctly identify the true nature of what we desire to possess. Don and Apos. Let the glamorous standards of society or superficial praise deceive you into draining your precious youthful resources on expensive liabilities and then soothing yourself with the illusion of stability. 2. Build a truly peaceful and independent life. Your most important task is to strive to buy or create genuine assets yourself. He defined assets in a very simple way. Assets are things that bring in income regularly, whether you and Apos reawake or asleep. Conversely, liabilities are things that drain resources from your pocket every day, every month. For example, when a young couple invests all their resources in owning a large house and shoulders a long-term financial commitment, that house continuously drains their finances through regular payments and maintenance costs. Let and Apos delve into an interesting story that took place in 1974 at the prestigious University of Texas. On that occasion, a management class had the honor of welcoming Mr. Ray Kroc, the great man who transformed McDonald and Apos into a global chain. After an inspiring lecture, Mr. Kroc and the students went to a small coffee shop for further interaction. In the midst of the friendly atmosphere, he unexpectedly posed a question to the group, and quote, "Can you guess what my core business is?" And quote. All the students laughed, thinking the president was joking. Finally, one student bravely spoke up. These could be valuable assets from organizations, intellectual property, rights, or sustainable, profitable projects. Only when the automatic flow of income from your asset column exceeds your living expenses will you truly grasp the golden key, unlocking the door to eternal freedom. Lesson number 3. Care about your own career. End quote. Mr. Ray, who in the world doesn't and Apos know you specialize in supplying hamburgers? End quote. Hearing that answer, Ray Rock simply smiled calmly. He slowly replied, end quote, "Young people, my real field is," end quote. Upon deeper reflection on this historical conversation, we realize a deeply ingrained misconception that the education system has inadvertently instilled in our minds. The talented students of that era, and many of us today, have completely confused the concepts of professional expertise and the creation of our own careers. The school teaches you to excel academically, to become a diligent engineer, a dedicated doctor, or a top-notch bookkeeper. End quote. It and Apos. It's not about making hamburgers. My core career is owning prime locations. End quote. He began explaining in detail to the bewildered young minds about the workings of McDonald and Apos. While delivering delicious meals is a daily activity, it and Apos just the surface. His real strategy was to own the most valuable commercial properties located at the busiest intersections in every city around the world. When someone signs a partnership agreement to open a new restaurant, they and Apos not just paying for the recipe or the name, they and Apos redirectly paying for the land on which the space is situated. Mr. Rock used catering as a tool to fund his massive wealth-building career. Your true career lies in self-operating systems, creative projects, or values that have the potential to grow without requiring your constant presence. Remember, that and Apos just a job, whether it and Apos being a brilliant manager or a top-notch professional, that and Apos your job. And then we spend a full 8 to 10 hours a day dedicating most of our time and energy over 40 years of our lives to supporting other people and oppos as careers. We dedicate ourselves to helping the head of an organization grow. We work to pay off recurring financial obligations, and we contribute to the social system. But in the end, our own asset column, our real career, is completely empty. Start caring about your own career. The message here is absolutely not to tell you to quit your current job immediately. Your professional career is incredibly valuable. It helps you cover your living expenses and maintain daily stability. But besides doing your job well, dedicate your free time, quiet evenings or weekends to quietly building your own financial foundation. Your career ISN and oppos, T defined by the title printed on the business card your organization gives you. But those who truly understand the workings of money, Don and oppos, T let themselves fall into that passive position. The rich father explained to Robert about, hey, professional skills help you sustain your life today, but only the foundation you build yourself can bring freedom and peace for every tomorrow to come. Lesson number 4, the power of understanding and legitimate tools. Let and oppos listen to a very practical lesson that a father with a wealth-conscious mindset passed on to his son Robert as he gently turned the pages of history about how money operates in society. He recounted that in the beginning, the responsibility of contributing to community building was only applied to a small group of people with abundant resources with the aim of sharing and balancing society. However, as the common machine expanded and needed more resources, these contribution regulations gradually spread, and, in the end, the greatest burden silently fell on the shoulders of the middle class and traditional workers, those who work diligently day and night, completely dependent on the system, are the ones who have to take the largest share of their hard work and sweat before they can take home the fruits of their labor. In the minds of ordinary people, an organization is usually envisioned as a giant glass building, a massive factory with thousands of employees bustling to work. But through the lens of the rich father, an organization in its most basic form is simply a valid file sitting modestly in the drawer of a legal advisor. It is an invisible entity, a protective tool created to safeguard the fruits of labor. The difference in how this shield is used created two completely different paths in life. The greatest invention of the elite is the concept of legal organization. Those who dedicate their time to ordinary work follow an extremely rigid cycle. They strive to generate income. Then they must immediately fulfill their collective contribution obligations, and only then are they allowed to use the meager remainder to sustain their lives. Conversely, those who possess a prosperity mindset through legitimate organizational tools operate in a completely reversed flow. They manage the system to generate cash flow. Then, they use those resources to pay for legitimate development and expansion activities. And only then do they fulfill their contribution obligations on the remaining surplus value. The elite Don and oppos T react to pressure with negative emotions or complaining. They respond with profound understanding. They seek out the best experts, the wisest advisors to help them optimize and secure their personal financial systems, while those lacking knowledge endlessly complain about the hardships and try harder. In their deadlock, sharp minds use their intelligence to protect and preserve what they create. The biggest lesson here is that ignorance always comes at a very high price. In the world of sustainable development, enthusiasm and hard work are not enough. You need to equip yourself with a solid foundation of knowledge, including language skills. Ultimately, the gap between having their contribution deducted before spending and being able to reinvest those resources before the remainder is deducted creates enormous leverage that allows their platform to continuously grow and expand. Upon closer analysis of this mechanism, we realize that these are not acts that violate norms or lack transparency. Rather, they are a sharp application of publicly established rules. It and oppos about numbers, about understanding financial statements, and about effective protection tools. financial intelligence is the most loyal guardian. Instead, you become a calm driver, knowing how to use the right tools to build, protect, and develop the free symphony of your own life. Lesson number 5. Prosperity doesn't and oppose come from chance, but from the ability to create. Let and oppose pause for a moment and go back to the early 1990s. That was when the economy was experiencing a period of extreme stagnation. Newspapers everywhere were only discussing difficulties, the slowdown in development, and the gloomy atmosphere that prevailed. Thousands of people were worried about not being able to continue maintaining their regular financial commitments for their homes. As a result, countless once splendored homes have been sadly returned to resource management organizations. Walking along the streets, one can easily see dusty, sad-looking signs announcing changes of ownership. Most people, despite his initial reservations, author Robert Kiyosaki donned his running shoes and jogged around the neighborhoods with a completely different mindset. He didn't end oppose desolation or deadlock. Instead, he saw doors opening. Instead of seeking out crowded places, he looked for less noticed locations. Offices of various organizations occupied numerous vacant spaces. With a solid foundation of knowledge, he identified a charming house that was undervalued far beyond its intrinsic worth. While the previous owner had abandoned it due to financial burdens, Robert, with his keen insight, legitimately assembled a small resource to complete the acquisition procedures, and, in a short time, gently handed the space over to someone genuinely yearning for a new home. From a connection seemingly hidden deep within the complexities of life, he single-handedly created a powerful new flow for himself without expending the sweat and effort of traditional, formulaic methods. When we take a step back to observe, they all retreated, clinging to their meager resources in fear and passively waiting for the storm to pass. But amidst this calm scene, and by closely observing and analyzing this decisive action, a profound truth about the difference in thinking gradually emerges. Why is it that when standing on the same street, seeing the same empty house, the crowd only feels pity and apprehension, while those with a prosperity mindset see a precious gem waiting to be polished? The answer lies in perspective. The crowd sees the world with physical eyes. They only see what is present on the surface: a period of stagnation, a house needing repairs, a seemingly insurmountable obstacle. But those equipped with sharp minds, like the author, Robert, see the world with intellect. They use their understanding of the language of numbers, their knowledge of the workings of the universe, and legal regulations to see through the hidden values within. Opportunity never shines or knocks on your door on its own. Opportunity is actually seen by a trained brain, not by ordinary eyes. From this inspiring real-life situation, the most profound philosophy we can carry as a precious baggage is that sustainable prosperity is never a gift from heaven, nor is it something that happens to fall into your lap by chance. The world is constantly moving and changing, and those who passively wait for circumstances to unfold will always feel overwhelmed and exhausted. Don and oppose expect someone to bring you a perfect door. Instead, cultivate your own perspective, build your knowledge, and hone your thinking skills every day. When your intellect is deep enough, you will be able to create your own choices. You will calmly and gently find bright paths, even in circumstances where others only see closed walls. Lesson number 6. Work to learn. Don and oppose just work for the security of your salary. My dear friend, to conclude today and oppose's series of profound lessons, let and oppose fly together to a peaceful afternoon in the island nation of Singapore, where author Robert Kiyosaki had a truly memorable encounter. That day, he interviewed a young female journalist. She was incredibly talented, possessing a sharp pen, a smooth office, and incredibly broad perspectives. Throughout the conversation, she shared a deep-seated worry filled with disappointment. Although her articles are always highly regarded by experts, And although she has devoted all her heart and soul to writing valuable works, after hearing her heartfelt confession, Robert offered some very practical advice. He gently suggested that perhaps she should take an intensive course on communication skills and how to introduce and spread the value of her work to the public. However, upon hearing this, the atmosphere suddenly changed completely. The sadness on the journalist and Apos' face was instantly replaced by hurt pride and indignation. She felt deeply wounded, her pride as an intellectual wounded. She believed that learning how to persuade others to accept or spread values would diminish the noble value of the writing profession. She asserted that she was a pure writer, someone who only needed to focus on her literary expertise and would never stoop to becoming a commercial connector. The interview ended awkwardly, and the young woman hastily packed her belongings and left, carrying with her her proud ego and unresolved dilemmas. Despite her success, her books remain inaccessible to a wider audience. She seems trapped in a vicious cycle, unsure how to break down the invisible wall separating her work from the wider world. As we watch the female journalist and Apos' back as she left that day, we couldn't and Apos' help but distant. She restrained herself. She carried within her a mixture of regret and sorrow. Her fierce resistance was, in fact, a reflection of a huge gap that the traditional education system had left. In the minds of many people, we are trained for years to become outstanding experts in a very narrow field. We might be a writer who writes perfect sentences, an engineer who designs complex machines, or an actuary who never makes a mistake in a number. But when we focus too much on our specialization, we inadvertently neglect fundamental connecting skills. That female journalist allowed professional pride to become a barrier. From this regrettable event, the most profound and practical philosophy we need to engrave in our hearts is this: on the journey of building a career, never underestimate the consequences. They dawn and Apos' realized that on the covers of the World and Apos' most successful works, the words printed are, end quote, author whose work has been most widely disseminated, end quote, not end quote, author who writes best, end quote, excellence. In one and Apos' field is a necessary condition, but the ability to connect with others, understand human psychology, and the art of conveying values are the sufficient conditions for that talent to take flight. Maintain a mindset like a live, constantly embracing new knowledge. When you combine profound professional talent with flexible soft skills, you will create unparalleled strength, freely reaching every destination you aspire to. My dear friend, we have just gone through 6 core lessons from the book, end quote, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, end quote, offering a new perspective on traditional educational thinking. The greatest message the book wants to convey lies not in dry calculation techniques, but in a shift in perspective from deep within, understanding the laws of prosperity and cultivating discernment. Your current job is merely a tool to secure your monthly salary. Transform every work environment into your own great learning school. If you and Apos in a specialized position, proactively observe and learn more about how the entire system operates. Learn how to communicate, how to lead, and how to resolve interpersonal conflicts. Sometimes, the gap between someone struggling to achieve excellence and someone who achieves true freedom is simply a lack of a fundamental skill. Put aside your pride and ego. The ability to identify opportunities and continuously improve your skills is the universal key to unlocking the door to freedom. Material possessions are not the ultimate goal. They are tools to help you master your time, create inner peace, and live a fulfilling life the way you want. If this quiet moment with this video has given you new perspectives and valuable insights, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Every act of support is a small flame that warms and motivates us on our journey of giving back. Thank you sincerely for listening attentively. May you always maintain clarity of mind, steadfastness in every decision, and a life filled with peace.